Abigail Hannaford-Ricardi, Children's Coordinator here at First Unitarian Church of Worcester. Now you probably know the story of Moses and how he went to the Pharaoh and asked for the Israelites to be freed from bondage, and he brought them into freedom. But do you know how the Israelites ended up as slaves in Egypt in the first place? Come with me. I'll tell you the story of Joseph and his coat of many colors. So today's story comes from the Torah, or the Old Testament of the Bible. This is Jacob. Now Jacob is the grandson of Abraham and Sarah. You may remember them. Abraham has a covenant with God that he will become the father of many nations after he is willing to sacrifice his son Isaac and God spares him. Now their son Isaac grows up and marries Rebekah, and they have twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau's slightly older, he's the hairy son, and on Abraham's deathbed, Jacob pretends to be Esau so that he can get the birthright blessing that normally goes to the eldest son. And in order to avoid his brother's anger after that, he runs away. And he comes to a well. And at the well, he meets a beautiful young woman named Rachel. And he falls in love with Rachel and works for her father as a shepherd for 7 years so that he can get the right to marry her. But secretly on their wedding day, the father replaces Rachel with his older daughter, Leah. Now, when Jacob discovers that he's married the wrong woman, he works for his father-in-law for another 7 years so that he can also marry his true love, Rachel. Now, Jacob is important. He's also called Israel. All his descendants are called Israelites. You may have heard of the 12 tribes of Israel. 10 of them are named after 10 of his sons. And Jacob has a lot of sons. But today's story is about this one, Joseph. Joseph is the youngest of 11 sons and the only son born to the beloved wife, Rachel. And as such, he is Jacob's favorite, and Jacob is none too subtle in showing favoritism. So while he sends his other 10 sons out into the field to harvest crops and watch over the flocks, he keeps Joseph at home, where at his leisure he can become a learned man. He reads and writes and learns mathematical equations and has the life of Riley. Well, this makes the brothers very jealous. And also, Jacob gives Joseph special gifts, including, one day, a coat of many colors. Here you go, son. I had this specially made for you. So, Joseph isn't too insightful when it comes to his brothers. Hey, guys, look at this. Dad bought me this coat of many colors. Isn't it the most awesome coat you've ever seen? Don't I look just fabulous? Too bad you guys don't have one, hey? Now, when Joseph turns 17, he begins to have some dreams. And he doesn't hesitate to share those dreams with his brothers. So while they're out working in the fields, toiling, hey, bros, guess what? I had this dream last night, and in this dream, oh my gosh, there were 10 stars in the night sky. And then, all of a sudden, there was an 11th star, and it was bigger and brighter than all the others. In fact, it shone so radiantly that the other 10 stars all dimmed in its presence. And I think this star is me, and the other 10 are you. Yeah, well, that didn't go over too well with the brothers, so that jealousy and resentment starts to build a little hate. And then, hey, bros, guess what? I had this dream last night, and in my dream, there were 10 sheaves of wheat, and then there was an 11th one, which was mine, and it was bigger than all the others, and the other 10 sheaves of wheat all bowed down before it. And I think this means that someday the 10 of you are all going to bow down before me. Yeah, that didn't go over so well, so then they're really hating him. So So the next time Joe goes out into the field to visit his brothers, hey bro, let's chat. They strip the coat of many colors off of him, and they plot to kill him. But then Reuben, the eldest, has a pang of consciousness and says, why don't we just throw him in this well and leave him to die? And Reuben thinks secretly he can try to go back and save him. And just as they're about to do that, a caravan comes through of traders. And the brothers think, hey, you know what? If we give Joe to the traders, he'll be out of our hair and we won't be guilty of murder. That sounds pretty good to them. So the traders take Joseph. And the brothers take his coat of many colors. They spill the blood of a lamb on it, and they bring it to their father and say, Father, Father, look, blood all over this coat of many colors. A wild animal must have taken Joseph, and this is all that's left of him. And Jacob mourns very deeply for his beloved son, who's dead, except that, of course, he's not dead. He's with the traders, who take him to Egypt, where there's a pharaoh who rules the land. That's like a king. And one of the people high up in the pharaoh's cabinet, per se, is a man named Potiphar. And Potiphar buys Joseph as his slave from the traders. And very quickly, Potiphar becomes impressed with Joe because Joseph knows how to read and write and think these great mathematical thoughts. And pretty soon, he puts Joseph in charge of his entire household, his steward of everything he owns, which is great for Joseph. Unfortunately for Joseph, Potiphar has a wife who's also greatly impressed with Joseph because he's really good looking. And so she makes a pass at Joe, and Joe says, oh, sorry, ma'am, I'm loyal to my master Potiphar. And she gets really angry, so she tells her husband that Joe tried to attack her, which lands Joseph in the prison of the Pharaoh. Now, while he's in prison, the Pharaoh sends his baker and his wine taster into prison, and they start having some strange dreams. And Joseph says, hey, I know how to interpret dreams. Tell me what your dream was. So the baker says, well, I had this dream that I baked these 3 baskets full of bread. They were just overflowing and beautiful. But then along came a bunch of birds, and the birds ate all the bread from my baskets. Yeah, that's a bad dream. That means in 3 days' time you're going to be found guilty. Sorry about that. Go ahead, wine taster, tell me your dream. So the wine taster says, well, I had this dream. There was this withered grapevine, but then it grew buds, and the buds became large, luscious grapes. And I squeezed the grapes into the Pharaoh's goblet. Oh, this is good. This means in 3 days' time, you will be restored to your position in the Pharaoh's palace. Well, the wine taster was very glad to hear this, and he said, oh, if this comes true, I'm going to put in a good word for you, Joe, when I see the Pharaoh. So 3 days go by, and indeed the baker is found guilty because any fly that was baked into the bread had to have been baked by him. But the wine taster is found innocent because any fly that landed on the goblet could have landed there after he tasted the wine. So the wine taster goes back to the Pharaoh's palace. Unfortunately for Joseph, he forgets to say anything about him until the Pharaoh starts having his own dreams. Now in one dream, there were 7 fat cows. And along come 7 skinny, sickly cows. And the skinny cows eat the fat cows. And even though they've eaten all that food, gobble, 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 they stay skinny and sickly. And then he has a dream in which there are 7 baskets overflowing with corn. And then there are 7 empty baskets. And when the 7 full baskets are poured into the 7 empty baskets, the baskets stay empty. Well, none of the Pharaoh's wise men can interpret the dream to his satisfaction, and he's getting very frustrated when the wine taster says, "Hey, I know someone who can interpret dreams." And so Joseph is summoned from the prison to appear before the Pharaoh. And he says, "Oh, Pharaoh, this is very easy. These dreams are the same. God is telling you that there will be 7 years of abundance. The weather will be fine, the plants will grow, there will be plenty of food." "Oh, that's good." "Yes, but afterwards there will be 7 years of drought where nothing will grow. There will be no rain, and there will be a massive famine throughout the land." "Oh, that's terrible. What should I do?" "Well, what you should do is build storehouses and store up all the extra grain from the years of abundance. And that way you'll have food to feed everybody during the famine." "Oh, that's brilliant. I'll put you in charge." And so Joseph becomes in charge of all the grain and the food. And indeed it happens just as he predicted, 7 years of plenty. And he stores up all the extra grain. And then comes the drought and the famine. And Joseph is the man in charge of the only food there is anywhere around. So he's prime minister and the second most powerful man in all of Egypt. But in the meantime, back in Canaan, his family's starving because it's the 2nd year of a drought and they've used up all their extra grain. But they've heard that in Egypt there is food. So Jacob says to his sons, "Go to Egypt and beg for some food because we're starving." So the sons head off to Egypt. Now, when they get there, they come before this very powerful man, whom they don't recognize because, well, he looks different and he's this very powerful man, and by now he's about 30 years old instead of 17. But Joseph recognizes them, and he's a little mean to them because they tried to kill him. So he puts them in jail for 3 days, he accuses them of being spies, he interrogates them, and finds out that they have a younger brother named Benjamin, who was born to Joseph's mom, the beloved second wife, Rachel. And now Benjamin is the new favorite son. And Joe becomes quite emotional about all this. And so he tells his brothers, "Go back and bring Benjamin the next time you come, or you can't have any more grain." And he's pretty threatening. So they all get their sacks of grain, and they go back home, and they tell their father about what has happened. But they're not too worried because they have 10 nice sacks of grain. But the famine continues, the drought continues, and they're all starving. And so Jacob says, "You have to go back and ask for more grain because we've used all ours up." And they say, "But Dad, if we go back, that scary man is going to say we have to bring Benjamin with us." And Joseph says, "Whoa, no. You're not taking my beloved Benjamin. Remember what happened to poor Joseph." And the brothers swear upon their lives that they will watch out for Benjamin. And so they all go back to Egypt. And once again, Joseph recognizes them. And he invites them to the palace to have a great feast with him. And Joe is there, and he's drinking out of this very fancy silver goblet. Glug, 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 glug. And then they get ready to leave. But as they have their bags of grain, Joseph secretly has his silver goblet placed inside of Benjamin's bag. And when they leave, he calls his guards, and they come after him, and they say, "Halt! Someone has stolen my very valuable silver goblet." And the brothers are all like, "Oh, no way! We would never steal anything. Search us." And so they do search him, and lo and behold, in Benjamin's bag of grain is the silver goblet. "You will pay for this. I will take you as my slave." And when one of the brothers says, "Oh no, please, take me instead, but don't take Benjamin." And all the other brothers are like, "Yes, please, our father is elderly. He lost a beloved son once. He cannot lose another one. Please take any one of us, but not Benjamin's. Please spare Benjamin." And Joseph is so overcome with emotion that he dismisses his guards and he exposes himself to his brothers and he says, "Brothers, it's me, Joseph. All is forgiven. I see how you have changed." And Joseph is weeping. He's so overcome. And he says, "Go back home, bring back our parents, bring back your wives, bring back your children. There are 5 more years of drought left. Come back and live here with me in Egypt." And so they do that. And they go back and they bring everybody with them. And they multiply and prosper. That means every generation has more and more children. All their crops grow well and flourish. And their flocks are all growing bigger. But then comes the day, several generations later, when there's a new Pharaoh who does not remember Joseph. And he doesn't remember or know how Joseph saved all of Egypt from famine. He just sees these people living on his land who are different. They're the other. They have their own God. They dress their own way. They worship their own way. They eat their own way. And he becomes suspicious and distrustful of them and resentful that they should have all this nice crops and flocks. And so he makes them slaves. And that is how the Israelites end up in Egypt in bondage. And now we have some time for some wondering questions. So I wonder if any of you have ever been jealous of a sibling or a family member. And I wonder if any of you have ever had dreams that you've tried to interpret. What could that mean? And I wonder why so often humans are distrustful and suspicious of people who are different and think that therefore it's okay to treat them as less than human. See you next time.